Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Friday Charge from the Geek podcast. We're your hosts, Joel and Sebastian. And today, November 8th, 2024, we've got a handful of topics on the docket, such as the EX30 is finally here, trouble at Nissan, and some more stories. So without further ado, let's plug in and get started. So, Volvo is finally going to begin selling the EX30 in the US, and they plan to do so by the end of 2024. So the first trim to ship will be the Twin Motor Performance. As they say, that's the most popular model among people that did a reservation, and it was expected to carry a price tag of $44,900. Interestingly, this is the same price that was announced earlier in the year before the Biden administration introduced the 100% tariff on Chinese-built EVs, which, since the EX30 is being built in China, is pretty surprising that they didn't change the price. I don't know if they're just going to eat a lot of costs on the initial EX30s, or if maybe they're just comfortable at whatever price they're at. Other trim levels are supposed to come sometime in 2025. No pricing has been announced on those. Who knows? This might be a situation where maybe getting in really early is a really good thing, like the people that bought the first Lightnings for $40,000.
We did an episode a while back on this about them finally bringing this to the market. So when we announced it, we didn't know when it was happening, and I kind of figured with the announcement last week with Volvo and Polestar getting supercharger access that we would probably start seeing the EX30s kind of start rolling in. Of course, they did start with the higher trim one at 44.9, not the one that's 34.9, which is the one I'd be most interested in. So yeah, I'm glad they're coming over. I'm glad we have someone now to also compete at that lower end, kind of like with the Model 3 and the Chevy Equinox and those models like that. So we finally have someone else in there now too, which will also have supercharger access. Now, I'm assuming it's going to be CCS on there. That's probably what I'm assuming, correct?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I believe they have announced they plan to do NACS eventually, but I imagine initially probably CCS.
Yep. And we actually had someone comment on one of our videos that we did. They actually tried calling Volvo about the adapter, their local dealership, and that person and the dealership had no idea what they were talking about. So Volvo, you need to step it up and let your dealers know what's going on with those adapters, because they're going to be in some people are going to be wanting those things soon. So we got to figure that out. So
for sure.
Yep.
Moving on, GM has officially sold 300,000 EVs in the US. So in October 2024, GM officially passed 300,000 EVs sold in the US and 370,000 sold in North America. In quarter 3 2024, GM sold 46% more EVs than the previous quarter and 60% more year over year. The first Chevy Bolt went on sale in 2016 for the 2017 model year, meaning it took 9 years for them to reach this milestone. So this to me is just, hey, cool, good job. It helps that now that you're building I think 8 different models or something like that and have more on the way, that helps your sales. So good job. Excited that y'all are keeping at it and hopefully can get to a point where you're profitable and everything is happy. And
yeah, so when you first look at it, you think, wow, 300,000 EVs sold in the US. Finally, I mean, that Tesla can do that. Tesla does, I think, what, $400,000 a year alone in the US too.
Yeah.
I mean, 200,000. Yeah. So, I mean, in 1 year. So they got a long ways to go, but I mean, we'll probably see them battle it out for second place with Hyundai and Kia here for a while. So yeah, kudos to GM for finally crossing the 300,000 EV mark, even though it took quite a long time.
Yep. Moving on to some sadder news, maybe. Ford is shutting down Lightning production for 2 months. So Ford has announced that they'll be halting production of the F-150 Lightning from November 15th, 2024 until January 6th, 2025. This is being blamed on slow sales for the model. This is not the first time Ford has halted or adjusted production of the truck, citing that the cuts are part of adjusting to a bumpy and inconsistent EV market. Ford has sold 22,000 Lightnings so far in 2024, which is nearly double what they sold in the same time period for 2023. But to compare and put that number in perspective, Ford has sold over 550,000 F-Series pickup trucks so far this year.
Mm-hmm.
So that 22,000 is a drop in the bucket in the overall picture.
Oh, Ford. So we've talked about Ford a lot and their issue with they're gonna ride out the Mustang Mach-E and the Lightning until the wheels come off, it seems, for the next 2 or 3 years. And when you do that, if you're not bringing anything new to the market, I mean, they're making updates internally in the car, but people want to see updates to the outside of the car and see new models come out. So I kind of think I kind of saw this happening with the Lightning. I'm hoping it doesn't happen in a year or two with the Mach-E. But I mean, it's a nice truck. It's a comfortable truck, but if you're going to start towing it and things like that, then it doesn't work out for the range and things like that. So, Ford can produce a lot of vehicles, which is probably why they have the manufacturing capacity to cut back, which, if I don't know what else to say, just, oh, well.
Yeah. And I mean, this is another one too, I am a self-professed Lightning lover.
Mm-hmm.
But when I fell in love with the Lightning was because they announced originally and sold briefly the work truck, the Pro version, for 39,000, right?
Yep.
You can't do that anymore. It's like 50,000.
Yep.
And then the XLT is like 60,000, and it just goes up from there. They sold pretty decently in that first year because the prices were low, but I think it's a combination of the prices have crept up, which hurts some, and then there's just more competition on the market. You got Silverado EV, you've got Cybertruck, you've got Rivian, you've got all these other options too that are right around or close, maybe a little bit more than the same price. An R1T starts at what, 70 grand, I think, which is right around XLT Lariat money. Silverado work trucks are 60 grand, but they get almost 450 miles of range.
Twice the range. twice the range, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I love the Lightning. I think it's an excellent truck and it's an excellent vehicle for a lot of people, but it's just kind of one of those, it's a hard sell sometimes especially in the truck world, where it's already hard to get someone to want a EV truck.
Yep. So yeah, I would agree. EV trucks are the hardest sell right now because people who use trucks are not your typical EV owners. They're people who can drive a truck, but are probably not going to do anything with it. Typically me and you, we're going to get a truck, but we're not pulling boats and campers and hauling stuff around with it. We may throw the occasional 2x4 in the back or something like that, but for hauling and stuff, I would never use a truck for that. So for me, a Ford F-150 Lightning would be fine, because I'm not doing any major hauling. Probably for you too, but for normal truck owners, for majority of them, they need something that's going to haul, and they don't want their range cut that much when they're hauling. And if they were, I'll just get one of the Silverado, work trucks for myself, or I can get one of those and don't have to worry about the range.
Yeah. So keeping on trucks and Silverado EV, GM is adding Sidewinder to the Silverado EV. So for 2025, the Silverado EV RST is now available what they are calling Sidewinder mode. Sidewinder is the Chevy name for GMC's Crabwalk or Cadillac's Arrival mode. For those who don't know, Crabwalk, Sidewinder, Arrival allow all four wheels to turn in the same direction at speeds up to 20 miles per hour, and the intended use is to aid in tricky off-roading for your 9,000-pound truck or making parallel parking easier. Cooler to me, this feature is going to be retroactively added to 2024 Silverado EV RSTs through an over-the-air software update. So we've seen GM seeming to do this frequently, very recently, where they're actually adding features to vehicles already on the road through software updates, whether it be over the air or take it to a dealership, whatever. They're actually improving the products as they go, right? And then like little incremental things such as, it was talked about how the 2025 Sierra and Silverados got slightly bumped range figures because they did some motor tweaking and got it to be a little bit more efficient, right? And they just did it. There's no wait for a mid-cycle refresh or anything. It's just a year-over-year change. So I'm super pumped to see GM really kind of adopting this flexibility in the space, and to see them actually going through and deciding, hey, you already bought the truck. Why don't we make it better?
Yeah, I mean, and if they're going to make updates, they can't be like typically and then wait like 4 years to update their truck. They were like, hey man, we want to sell these. We want to sell these now. So let's update as much as we can to entice more people to want to get this truck, or for those who already have it, want to keep this truck. So it is a cool feature. I mean, we've seen the crack wall feature below in other videos and things like that. It's a really cool, feature. It's a gimmick. It can help with parking. I don't do a lot of street parking. And so it wouldn't really affect me. So yeah, I mean, kudos to GM. Like you said earlier, they got a bunch of models out. Think about with Cadillac and Chevy and the list just goes on about GMC, what they're doing in their EV market. They have a lot of models out to compete now, and that's a good thing. More competition is better. Someone to just more variety out there for everyone.
Yep. And finally, there is trouble brewing at Nissan. So Nissan will be cutting 9,000 jobs, as well as cutting production as a part of a new plan to conserve money. So they will be cutting global production by 20%, bringing their total production capacity to 5 million units. Additionally, Nissan CEO plans to take a 50% pay cut starting this month to help out. Nissan will also be selling a large portion of their stake in Mitsubishi Motors. However, they will remain Mitsu's largest shareholder. Nissan is expecting this new plan to save them roughly $3 billion. So this is just with a B. This is just a story, Nissan has been having trouble, like minor trouble for a while, and they kind of continued to stay afloat, but eventually I think it's going to catch up. And I think we're starting to see that unravel.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at all the Japanese automakers, they have been slow or not in the EV game. I mean, the Honda just came out with the Prologue, which and Acura, which they got some help from GM. Nissan has they're getting rid of the. I mean, is this the last year for the Leaf? I believe it is.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
to be honest,
they have the Leaf, which is really long in the tooth, and you have the Aria, which is a decent EV, but it's not record breaking. And Toyota, they're still playing with the BZ4X and Solterra. And of course, you hear claims from Toyota all the time that we have batteries that can go 1,000 miles, but they're not doing anything with that technology, So I think, when I read the article here in the New York Times, it cited competition in China. That's killing a lot of these automakers. And why is that? Because people in China, instead of buying, Honda and Nissan and Volkswagen EVs, they're buying Chinese EVs now. And that's where a lot of these companies are taking their hit, is in China and in Europe as well, where you get these Chinese automakers and BYD and those brands as well. So it may not be tied directly to EVs, but it is EV related. Another thing about Nissan is they're not really in the hybrid market either. So if you think about it, there's a lot of Toyota can they can save their grace in that. They make great hybrid vehicles. Toyota makes solid hybrids. But Nissan, they're not in the hybrid game. So they're not in the EV game, and they're not in the hybrid game. And they're not selling a lot of gas cars in China no more. So, I mean, this is just the domino effect. And I kind of figured that Mazda, Nissan, Mitsubishi, I don't know how someone's not going to make it. I don't think. It's sad to know, but looking out 5-10 years, someone's not going to make it. And it may be one of those three. And I hope it's not, but it may be one of those.
Yep. Okay, I have one more topic, and this one's not on the dock, Joel. I am throwing you a curveball.
It's hot off the press.
I got this email like an hour ago.
What is it? Oh, great. Now I'm not prepared. Go on.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
A to Z is recalling the Generation 1 Typhoon NACS to CCS adapter.
That's the one you have, correct?
Correct. So the original NACS Typhoon adapter is the one that has the sliding lock on the bottom to lock the NACS cable in. This is not the V2 Typhoon Pro adapter that just has a single button to undo both ends. So this Tom Malogny has a video on it on his State of Charge YouTube channel, and he goes into depth. He talks to the CEO. They talk about exactly what went wrong. Definitely go check that out. They get way into more depth and kind of can give you more info on the plan on this, but just to kind of get like a real brief overview of it. So the first reason they're recalling it is it was found that the locking mechanism, that sliding lock, which was honestly everyone's weakest point on the adapter, right? Was
Mhm.
they didn't love the whole push it in, lock it, it won't charge if it's not locked, and then you have to unlock it and pull it out, and then all that stuff. It wasn't loved. It was found that over time, after approximately 10,000 uses, which is a lot of charging sessions, so like, is it really a problem? The mechanism could degrade. And so if it degrades, it might not lock as well, whatever, and then you could potentially rip the charger out while it was going and cause an arc flash or whatever. Again, after 10,000 cycles.
So think about it, if you
which
charge
is a
it
lot of.
365 days a year, 10,000 divided by 365 days. I mean, think about how many years that cable would have, that adapter would have to go before that could possibly have something happen to it.
Yeah. And the other reason that they went ahead and did a recall is in condition, and I'm reading this off the email kind of verbatim because I don't want to say it wrong.
So question, before you go in, did you get the email because you have the adapter?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yep. So in conditions where the adapter is used at high amperage or greater than or equal to 500 amps for extended periods, example, 1 hour or more, the surface temperature of the V1 adapter may rise by approximately 5 to 10 degrees Celsius over what the standard prescribes. So it's important to note both of these issues are a direct result of the new UL 2258. That number might be wrong. Don't quote me on it. But the new UL standard.
Put it in the comments. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is the new UL standard for these charging adapters, right? And so the standard says that the locking mechanism should be able to withstand a certain amount of force, basically a certain amount of force before it would break. And then it has a standard for how hot the outside of the adapter is allowed to get if it charges at 500 amps for an hour. Now, let's talk realistically. There's not a single EV on the market, or at least on the market currently in the US, that can hold 500 amps for an hour.
Yep.
Right? Rivian will do 500 amps, but it'll only do it for like 10, 15 minutes before it gets out of that part of a charge curve. There's not really anything out there. The only stuff that pulls more than 500 amps would be stuff like your Tesla Cybertruck, but it will only do it on a supercharger.
And it's not doing it for over an hour.
Yeah, and you're not using one of these adapters for it either.
Yep.
So currently, there is not a single EV that would put it at this stress. But because it technically doesn't meet the UL standard, A to Z has decided that they're going to go ahead and do a NHTS recall on these adapters. And so what they're doing for this is, if you have one of the affected adapters and you choose to sign up through their form, you can basically swap your original V1 adapter for the Typhoon Pro, which is the new style adapter that has been tested to not have any of these issues, and they'll do it for free. Cool. Which is expected for a recall.
Yeah, I'm glad they got on top of this early. They did it now. Like you said, they could have went 2 or 3 years and then recalled them. But the smart thing is to do it now, because you don't want to leave a bad taste in people's mouth saying, "Hey, I got sold a bad adapter." Get them off the market now. There's probably not a whole lot out there. I mean, there's probably a good number, but not a whole lot out there. So get these off the market now. Get a brand new one, and good to go. I'm excited to see you do some testing on your new one. I just got an electron adapter, so to do some testing on as well. So it'd be fun to do some tests on those, just kind of see how they work, because I've actually never used one before. So
yeah, so it's important to know. I'll bring it up now just in case anyone who sees this and sees content later. So I do have a Typhoon Pro, the V2 adapter, that came in today before this recall was announced. So I just want to point out that I did not get the new adapter because of the recall. I got it because A to Z specifically sent it just for me to try it out. Yeah. And so I will probably end up just sending them an email and saying, "Hey, can I just keep this one and have it be part of the recall, so they don't have to send me another adapter?"
There's no need to have two of them.
Yeah. And so that's probably what I'll do. But I just wanted to make it clear that I have the new adapter, and it is not because of the recall.
You're the first one to get it. So how long have the new adapters been on sale for? A while?
So they went on sale, I believe, in June or July.
Okay, and you can't buy the first generation one anymore, can you? It's off the market. Okay, I don't know if it was still for sale and at a cheaper price, but it's off the market. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so the order dates on this recall are between November 16th, 2023 and June 20th, 2024.
Oh, so it's not that big a window then. Yeah.
Yeah. But, and it's also important to note too that kudos to A to Z. So they announced this today. NHTSA doesn't plan to release their actual recall until sometime next week.
Yeah.
So they're getting ahead of it. They're getting everything rolling, whatever, going ahead and starting the process before the recall has even officially been released.
Yeah.
So kudos to them. I think they're handling this great. But yeah, so if you have a first gen A to Z Typhoon NACS to CCS adapter, check your email, make sure you get it, because it has all the steps you need to do to get it replaced for a Typhoon Pro for free.
Brand new adapter for some people. Pretty cool.
Yep. All right, well, that is a wrap for today's episode. Thanks for plugging into the Friday Charge. Be sure to subscribe to the EV Geek podcast on YouTube and tap the notification icon to be notified about new releases. We have some great new content, including a review of a first-gen Model 3, as well as an episode on EVs you may have never heard of. If you have any thoughts or questions, drop them in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. So long, everyone, and we will see you on the next episode of the Friday Charge.